So let's take a moment to go within. And so we begin by just taking a breath, breathing in the light and the love and the peace and the joy that is the divine, that is spirit, that is God. We breathe that in and we recognize that loving presence as our own. We recognize that presence that is deep within our being, that expresses around us and through us and for us in every moment. That is who we are. That is how we walk through the world. I am knowing that wherever we are in this moment, wherever we sit, that below us is holy ground, that we walk on holy ground, that we are in that. We are surrounded by that presence. And so with that, we just breathe that in and we feel gratitude in our heart for this time, for all that is unfolding in our life. I am knowing that whatever is unfolding is supporting us in the raising of our consciousness and the expansion of who we are. I'm knowing that if there are any challenges that we are experiencing, that presence of love and light surrounds us and holds us and envelops us with love, with compassion, with kindness, with grace. As we breathe in, we feel that support, and we feel and know that guidance that is ever so gently guiding us through life. And so with that, we release this. We feel that gratitude and we let it go. And we trust and know that spirit is always with us, that divine essence of God, that intelligence that knows all things is always right here, right by our side, guiding us, supporting us, and loving us through this journey called life. And so with that, we let it go. And we ground it in together by saying, and so it is. Amen.
Good morning, everybody. Pocket of blue sky in the corner of the morning. Ready or not, the sun will shine. It will shine. There's a change in the wind without a warning. Opportunity to lay your heart out on the line. And doesn't the sun feel just a little warmer on your skin? Doesn't the breeze feel cool blowing by? There's a newness in the air, it invites you in. Opportunity to spread your wings and fly. The light breaks in, and you can begin. And every day contains this simple gift. And the walls divide. You just let it ride, ride, ride. The light breaks in, the clouds of darkness lift. And the light breaks in. Oh, the light breaks in. Ribbon of highway stretching out into the distance. Yours for the traveling, if you will take the time. It's as easy as a path of least resistance or a sea to swim. A mountain you might climb, but every moment holds the promise, holds the challenge. Will you embrace it all, the pleasure and the pain? The sun and moon each holding to their own horizon. The stage is set, the balance is maintained, and the light breaks in, and you can begin. And every day contains this simple gift, and the walls divide. You just let it ride, and the light breaks in, the clouds of darkness lift, and the light breaks in, and the light breaks in, and the light breaks in. The light breaks in, the clouds of darkness lift, and the light breaks in.
Great, Petter. Thank you so much. What a great song. So nice to see you and have you with us again. So I'm going to introduce our guest, Reverend Mike McMorrow, and we'll bring him on up. So Reverend Mike McMorrow is the spiritual director for CSL Granada Hills, where he has served since September 2009. He released the book Blue Collar Spirituality, Finding a God That Works, on Labor Day 2020 to an enthusiastic response. I'm sure you'll hear more about that. Reverend Mike spent more than 30 years in the construction industry, first as a carpenter and then built a successful building contractor business in the Southern California area, a great laboratory where he proved the principles of conscious living. Mike is a big fan of working people everywhere and works diligently to help others realize the idea that there is a power for good in the universe available to everyone, and you can use it. Please welcome Reverend Mike McMorrow.
Good morning. Am I unmuted? I think I am. Yes. Okay, good. So I got to tell you, it's a thrill. It's a thrill for me to be here with you at New Thought, Northern Colorado. I've always wanted to visit Colorado and the Rocky Mountains ever since I bought my first John Denver album. But it's a long way from LA to Denver. Well, is that a collective groan I'm hearing all the way from Colorado right now? Well, seriously, getting out to Colorado and the Rocky Mountains and the trout fishing is on my bucket list. For I do spend a lot of time as I can in the Sierra, but it's a long way out there. But I want to get out there to the Rockies, to the Continental Divide, to Adolph Coors. And I want to thank my buddy, Reverend Barbara Bew, this morning, who's been telling me about this great group up in Northern Colorado that she's been working with, and to Rev Jenny for inviting me to come out, and happy birthday to you. And of course, to Reverend Leah, who I had the chance to visit with and get to know a little bit last year in Denver. So New Thought, NoCo, I guess you call yourselves, is blessed to have such great leadership under one tent. And I can assure you that your ministers are held in high esteem by our ministerial body. So to the business at hand. So the talk title, Looking Above, is tied into our global theme that I know you all have been working with, which is also tied into the monthly theme, which this month is Timeless Wisdom and Evolutionary Vision. And the talk title again, Looking Above. So in preparing this message of looking above, what hit me straight away is that for folks like myself, flatlanders, that we live on plains of concrete and tarmac hours away from high ground. Even to get to natural surroundings that have not been manicured and manipulated in some way, take commitment and a car to get to. There are what we call mountains out here, to be sure, but compared to the Rockies, they're just hills. And they're often obscured. So for instance, when I was a kid, we lived out in Ohio at the time. We came out to visit my grandmother, who lived in Pasadena at the time. And we were there for a couple of weeks. And I woke up one morning and I looked out her patio there, And I exclaimed, Grandma, there's mountains. Because the smog and haze was so bad at the time that the San Gabriels were totally obscured, even though they were less than 5 miles away, which is a testimonial to clean air standards, by the way. Just thought I'd throw that in there. All to say that for me and for countless others, to look above is to go up to the mountain. For there's a feeling I get when I look to the west and my spirit is crying for leaving. In my thoughts I have seen rings of smoke through the trees. Okay, enough of that. So, truth is that whether you live in LA or in Loveland, Colorado, as clean as today's air can be, modern living can still find a way to keep us distracted, to keep us separate from our fellows, to pit one man or one group against the other, to live with a put up your dukes kind of consciousness, that we have been living with this consciousness now for several years now. And these last 4 years have really just been the logical expression of this put up your dukes kind of consciousness. But eventually, even the fiercest man among us loses a step. And in this way, and at this time, we are at choice. We can either step into resentment and grievance, and we've seen firsthand how that can unfold, or we can stop, and take a breath, and choose instead to step into wisdom, to cease fighting everyone or everything in our thoughts and in our words. So with choice, of course, the whole world changes because we are changing. And in that change, we can shift the conversation and raise the vibration within our circle of influence. That my book speaks to my own journey in this regard, and the promise of others to do the same when we seek to align our thought with spiritual practice. I think that all could agree, regardless of perspective, that the time has come to find ways to turn down the heat and to find our way to that field beyond wrongdoing and right doing. Now as never before, this field needs to be cultivated, that we must find our way there and find our way to the other, to those who do not see the world as we do or think in ways that we think. It can be done, but it's not easy, particularly if you have had to live with this put up your dukes consciousness to get by. It takes so much more courage to be a soft-hearted man rather than a hard-hearted jerk. And I've been both. That men must find their own way to a way of embracing softness through our masculinity without feeling like a girly man. For men are not hairy women. We're men, and we think differently. Now, how to be a soft-hearted man is to learn how to live with strength, tempered with compassion that reaches beyond mere sentimentality. And women must also relearn how to love this kind of man as we heal our insecurities, which is basically what's driving the whole thing, as we heal our own insecurities over money, sex, and power. Because you may have noticed that the dynamics in this regard are changing. Ready or not, it's here. For instance, I can tell you it is a weird feeling when your wife makes more money than you do. Thankfully, she doesn't hold that against me. So it can seem like a daunting task, but it is doable. For there is an infinite power at work here, an infinite heart expressing a sense of the divine that may be difficult to put into words, in the way that trying to describe the beauty of a mountain covered in fresh snow at first light. We experience it. We may even find ourselves shifted and lifted into ways of being that are a high vibration experience. And at the same time, this experience can be hard to share in the world. But for people of faith, regardless of flavor, it is much easier, particularly when we focus on the areas where we agree. And what we agree on ultimately is that God is. Because regardless of gender, we are being nudged. We are being called to not only look above, but to look within, to touch that wellspring of love itself, expressing. In this power and presence, this living intelligence is found by looking above, below, behind, and ultimately within. For in the inherent challenges and even sometimes suffering and struggle of the human condition, we have labored up the mountain and arrived breathless, tired, and then rejuvenated by the sweet alpine breeze, where we quenched our thirst in that crystalline snow melt stream, where we have felt ourselves lifted by that inspiring view. And so in this way, we, like Peter, James, and John, are transformed and transfigured as emissaries of the Most High, expressing itself through and as our life in seemingly ordinary and yet at the same time miraculous ways. That we leave the mountaintop a changeling of consciousness. That we have been shifted and lifted into a way of higher consciousness wherever we find ourselves. That we see the world in a new way, knowing the light of the living Spirit attunes to us to see beyond, so that we see beyond the seeming appearance of causes and conditions, that we attune with divine insight and wisdom, activating pathways to infinite possibilities of good for ourselves and, more importantly, for others. For we come to see that there truly is a power greater than we are alone, and we can use it. And that it is what Ernest Holmes called the thing itself. Not out of disrespect or even to knock the divine down a notch, but rather to see how God, as we understand it to be, is right in our midst. That we can, in fact, invite God's imperial rule from heaven to right here on earth. Our task, then, is to accept the challenge that Ernest Holmes put before us and to encourage you and me to understand that God is far more than we think it is, and that we can use it. And in fact, when we use it, we prove it. And when we prove it, we grow in faith, and our faith expands the belief in the creative field of mind that is available to us, a field of love and law that can restore the hardest heart to reconciliation with himself, with themselves, and others. But we must engage with it. For Holmes himself said, one of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and not enough practice. So we first acknowledge that in our life we long to experience more, that we long to experience increase, that we long to experience more of life, to experience a sense of wholeness so complete that we live life in the overflow. An overflow that is easily shared, for we have enough to share, for we are enough, and we have enough. So we identify the need in gratitude, consider the way in which we are one with the Spirit, and know that there is that which I am seeking, which is seeking me. And to know that this new truth, with a faith so complete that there is expectancy in that belief. So that this is what is meant when we say, it is done unto you as you believe. For as Ernest Holmes says in the last couple paragraphs of how to use it, a new light is coming unto the world. We are on the borderland of a new experience. That the veil between spirit and matter is very thin. That the invisible passes into visibility through our faith in it. That we are in line with the evolution of the great presence, and nothing can hinder its progress. This principle is the vested right of any religion where truth will out and the Spirit will make itself known. Holmes goes on to say, happy are we if we see these things which, from the foundation of the human race, have been longed for by all aspiring souls. So in that longing, there is oneness, there is equanimity, there is unity, and that longing is the longing for the divine to make itself known. He goes on to say that true thought deals directly with first cause, and the science of mind is the study of first cause, or God, spirit, or truth, that invisible essence, that ultimate stuff, that intelligence from which everything comes, the power back of creation, the thing itself. So, my brothers and sisters, you and I are that light. For whenever two or more are gathered to consider and give witness to this living intelligence, this infinite power and presence one to the other, that living intelligence is alive and well within the soul of you and within the soul of me. And wherever two or more are gathered, there I am. So the great irony, I think, that once again, to find our way to the Spirit, we must find our way to each other. This is the value of spiritual community. To create places of healing is a most noble purpose, where together we create a field of consciousness of love and prosperity, a field of increase and overflow, that new man or woman can sense the possibility of possibilities laid out before them, that call them to join you and to join me. For we have been up the mountain, that we have been transformed by the renewing of our minds, that the spirit of the law is upon us, a spirit a law of love so perfect in its unconditional expression that it appears to be impersonal and is available to all. A consciousness that oozes, right? A consciousness of spiritual community that oozes welcome. Welcome, friend. Peace be unto thee. Sit and rest. Refresh your soul. Eat of the fruit, drink of the wine. All is yours, and you are welcome. So if you would just take a breath with me. So this month of January, we have been considering this evolution of vision, even as we connect with our ancestors and timeless wisdom. So what has made itself known to us this month? What is making itself known to us right now in this moment? We open our hearts and open our minds to the divine impulse of the living intelligence of Spirit itself. That we are open to that which is ours to do. That we know that in this infinite power and presence of the divine, there is also the power to not only see it, but to have the power to call it forward. That we are not limited in any way, including COVID, that we find the ways to make the crooked ways straight, to allow that calling, and each one of us has a calling, to come forward, whether it's a calling to be more in our relationship, to be more on the job, to be more in our creative endeavors, to be more of ourself. So today, as we consider these things, let us strive to make a commitment to be more authentic, to find ways of connection and love with each other that allow the greatest expression of love and power to make itself known by means of you and by means of me. One day at a time. And then come back next week and check in with Reverend Leah and your practitioners and report on how things have changed. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here with you. It's been wonderful. Thank you.